Hello, and welcome to our weekly LinkedIn Live leadership series, Voices of Leadership. Thanks so much for joining us today. I'm Kathy Eastwood, your host and the founder and CEO of E equals Y. We are a firm partnering with executives that are looking to drive change and know that people are key to their success. A team's job is to deliver business results. It's the role of the leader to empower, inspire, and enable the people to deliver those results. And we truly believe that there's a repeatable formula to that success. The E3 Leadership Code: express plus engage plus execute, powered by emotional qualities. It's a human approach to high performance, but how each leader shows up really is unique. And that's what we love, highlighting different leaders, how they show up, how we can help them, how we can see aha moments. I know Tracy and I love to have aha moments with a lot of our clients. So today's guest is someone that is really very special to me and to Equals Y. She's one of our executive coaches who brings both depth and heart to leadership conversations. So before I introduce Tracy, please feel free to introduce yourselves. Use the chat to let us know where you're calling in from. It's an opportunity for you to network with other people. So share your LinkedIn profile and ask us questions. So Tracy and I love to answer your questions because we're here for you. So Tracy is a coach, a facilitator, and an artist who works with leaders to helping them reconnect to themselves and to really navigate change and lead with greater intention. She brings a thoughtful, grounded approach to leadership development. And I have to say, what I really appreciate most about you, Tracy, is how you help people find strength without losing their humanity. And I think that's so important for what we're going to be talking today, because we're going to talk about resilience. We're going to talk about what is resilience, why it matters, and how do we do it? How do we become and practice being more resilient? So Tracy, thank you so much for joining us.
My pleasure. I'm always excited to be here and chat with you. So thank you.
Excellent. We've got Imelda, we got Ralph. We're going to have a good conversation today. So again, let us know where you're calling in from and ask us questions. So Tracy, let's start first with the definition of what is resilience. How do you define it?
Yeah, great question. I get this question a lot when I work with leaders. And really, it's funny because they don't use the word resilience. Often we think about, how do I manage through change? How do I bounce back from situations? How do I manage stress? Those are usually the terms that people use when we think about resilience. But resilience, really, the way I think about it is how do we take care of ourselves? So that when something comes our way that either we don't expect or that might feel challenging to us, we can weather through it and bounce back quickly. So I kind of think of resilience as just one of the skills that's important for us to build and hone and cultivate as leaders. When I think about what teams need from us, I often think about how I feel about being a parent. And the way I think about how do I be the best parent to my daughter, the best way for me to be the best parent for my daughter is to be the best version of myself so that I'm showing up in the best that I can at any given moment, knowing that that best might look different from moment to moment. I feel like leaders and teams want the same thing. Our teams want us to show up as leaders as the best versions of ourselves. If we're stressed out, we're freaking out, we're constantly bouncing back and forth, we're not taking care of ourselves, we're not going to be thinking clearly, our memory goes down, our cognitive ability goes down, our decision making either becomes stagnant or reactionary. We're not going to be the best version of ourselves for them and the best leader for the team. So I think of resilience as a skill. I think of it as a skill that helps us be the best version of ourselves and bounce back when we encounter challenges.
Yeah, because I mean, listen, we know leadership is easy in good times.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? It's really true leaders shine when they are able to manage through chaos and craziness and the turbulent times, right? So you use the
Yeah,
word weather the storm, right? And that's what we have to set ourselves up to make sure that we are in that space to weather the storm and lead our teams through it.
exactly right. Exactly right. And we forget sometimes the body connection with stress. We think often, there's a healthy level of stress. It's called eustress. And then at some point there's a tipping point and we get into distress. Eustress is when we've got just enough pressure to keep us going, to keep us focused, to keep us motivated. Distress is when we get overstimulated, we're overwhelmed, and our nervous system goes into fight or flight. And when we do that, it impacts our cognitive capabilities. And so it's not a nice to have, in my opinion. Building resilience and building these practices is not a nice to have if you want to be the most successful leader that you can be in terms of creating results and taking care of your team.
Yep. When I think of resilience, one of the because I know we're going to talk about why and how in a second, but I think of it as when you get on a plane
Hmm.
and you're told that you need to put your oxygen mask on first,
Hmm.
right? Because you can't take care of anyone else if you're not breathing and you're okay.
Exactly right. Exactly right. Yeah.
So you did a little bit of the why, but let's talk about why it's so important and situations where you've seen it of resilience really show up or the lack of resilience. Um, what happens when someone isn't resilient?
Yeah. Great, great question. So, I was thinking about this morning and I was thinking about, again, building a skill and creating a practice to build a skill. So, if you think about leadership as a marathon, you wouldn't just walk out and join the Boston Marathon tomorrow and expect to finish, right? You would train for it. You would practice for it. You would build up capabilities to support you on that journey. So, leadership isn't a sprint, it's a marathon. And we need to be planning for what could potentially come our way. Maybe the business direction changes and we have a new strategy. Maybe we inherit a new team. Maybe we get pulled off of something we're working on and we put on something new. Maybe we need to lay off some of our folks, or maybe we get laid off, right? So if we don't have that capability built in, we end up in free fall and in reactionary mode. Again, we're not going to make the best decisions. We're not going to think clearly. We're not going to be innovative. We're not going to be there to support our team. We're going to be in fight or flight. And I've seen this happen a lot when leaders get taken, they get put off guard, right? They something comes at them that's unexpected, and they're barely keeping things together as it is. It's like the circus performer with the plates in the air, and they've got everything spinning, and something new comes along, and they don't have capacity to address it, and so the things start to fall. And what I've seen happen with leaders in that situation is physical illness. Sometimes they'll get taken out physically because their bodies just can't keep up. You'll see it show up in unproductive behaviors. So sometimes I'll see leaders get extra overly directive or get stuck and not be able to address and move and adapt quickly. They'll get slower to make decisions or make reactionary decisions. So, kind of both ends of that spectrum. But we don't end up being able to solve problems really well and effectively. And you end up reactionary. And that is never a solution that's going to get us where we need to go. So it can really show up in lots and lots of different ways, which is why self awareness as a practice is so important. And we talk about this in the boot camp. We spend, a good chunk of time talking about
Yeah.
self awareness in the E3 leadership boot camp because it's such a critical thing to understand. When I get under stress, what does that look like for me? What are my red flags? How do I know so that I can take a moment and address that. And if I share that with my team, now if you know what those are for me, Kathy, you can go, hey, Tracy, I've noticed X, Y, and Z. How are you doing?
Yeah.
I might not even realize it. And now all of a sudden, it's like, oh, shoot, yeah, I've got something going on and I need to take a step back and address it. So, yeah.
Yeah, we were actually talking about this in the community the other day, where
Mm.
we brought out our Clarity 4D profiles again, right? And looking at it and reminding it, because there's actually three different levels. There's where you intend to show up, and that's your natural tendency.
Yep.
You've got that yellow energy where you're creative, you're able to rally everyone around you, collaborative. I tend to have a lot more. I have a lot of that energy too, but my red energy is what is my dominant. And talking about, I'm one of those people that become very controlling under stress. So I know when I start to bark orders or something, I am under stress. But we were going, and I'm going to take us off on a tangent for a second, but what we also were talking about on Wednesday was how you can flip out and go to your complete opposite state.
Yes. Yes. Uh-huh. Yeah.
Right. So for
Yeah.
me, I flip out, and usually I have control. I'm to the point, all of that. But if I flip out, I'm crying in the corner, because I can't handle it. So it really is important. It's that it starts with awareness. So, you talk about some of the skills. The first one is, how do you become more resilient? And so awareness
Yes.
is definitely number one. How else, what are the skills can you build up to build up your resilience
Yeah.
capability?
So I think about resilience in terms of three different aspects. And bear with me with this analogy, but I think about it like a three-legged stool, which is how I think about health in general. And that is mind, body, and spirit, right? So mind is something we can think about a lot. What am I doing to take care of my mental health? So this could be, do I notice when I have a lot of negative self-talk? Do I notice when I'm ruminating over and over and over again? How am I thinking about how I think about how I frame things for myself? A lot of people meditate. Some people have a coach that they can reflect ideas off of or share things. Some people have a therapist. Some people have community. And being in community is a wonderful way to share what's going on with you, but I call it between the ears, right? So that you can take a moment to express how it is that you're feeling, what you're feeling challenged with. And when we articulate that, especially to someone else, you share it verbally, or you can write it down and journal it. It takes a mental load off of you. So that's one aspect of it. Another aspect of it is, how are we managing our executive function capabilities? Do we have good structures in place to manage our calendars? Do we have a good meeting structure in place to make sure we're starting and ending meetings with clarity and clear action items? Do we have an intention for what we're trying to do? Do we have clear objectives, right? All of these things help remove the mental load. So those are a couple of different things that we can be thinking about. And then when it comes to body, we need to take care of our physical being. So that means eating well whenever we can, getting enough sleep, running, physical activity, getting on the treadmill for 5-10 minutes a day, wiggling your toes. It's amazing. I use this a lot. When we are in fight or flight, our body pulls all of its energy into our core, because we're either going to run or we're going to punch somebody, right? So, or we're going to freeze. So we hunch up. So if you bring your awareness to your extremities, wiggle your toes, notice your hands, that can help calm your nervous system. Putting cold water on your face stimulates your vagus nerve. So there are lots of different ways that we can do short little things to take care of our body. And that's a skill set that as leaders, I don't think we invest in enough. Because again, mind, body, spirit, they are all connected. So if I'm not taking care of my body, I'm not going to think clearly. Spirit is one that we don't often talk about. in business. And it's so important because how you define spirit is very different for everyone. And when I say spirit, I don't necessarily mean religion, although for some people that might be what that means to them.
Right.
I mean, how do we take care of the part of ourselves that we don't always have a name for? The part of ourselves that just feels so calm when we sit at the ocean, or we go for a walk in nature, or we draw or paint. That part of ourselves, that highest version of ourselves. So, what are the things that bring us joy in our lives? And how do we make space for a little bit of that on a regular basis? And those three things, building a practice where we can address all three aspects of those things, is a great way to build a resilience practice. So it's the skill of noticing, the skill of taking action in each of those areas, and the skill of getting good at creating a practice for ourselves.
Yeah.
That's a skill in and of itself, how to
Yeah.
create a practice. Yeah.
Another way, some people might look at it as habits. What habits can you
Sure.
add in to make sure that you're setting yourself up for success in
Yes.
it? Another one for me was when you were talking about the body, or when you're in that fight and flight, not just your extremities, but to notice, name 5 things in the room. So if someone is under
Sure.
stress,
Yep.
you can use some of these to help people when they're in that space and say, tell me 5 things in the room, because our
Yes.
brain can't handle multiple things at the same time.
Yes.
And so rather than saying you're going to be okay, you're just keeping that mindset on what's wrong as opposed to bringing them up and being aware of what else is happening out there.
Absolutely. It's a really great technique when you're having a panic attack. My daughter used to get meltdowns pretty regularly, and so we would talk about what are 5 things you can see,
Mm,
what are 5 things you can feel, what are 5 things you can smell, and is there anything you can taste right now, right? So it's bringing awareness to those different senses. To your point, once you engage in that, the other stuff finds a way to calm down. Our heart rate slows, and then we can kind of take the next step. But in a pinch, cold water on the face works amazingly.
yeah, and I think about it at work, like you do get to a point where you're like, you got everything planned out. You're like, okay, here's what I got to get done today. I have limited time. I am focused, and that curveball comes at you.
Hmm.
And it happened to me the other night where I'm like, someone asked me, can you get on a call for 5 minutes? I'm like, okay, I can do 5 minutes, right? 5 minutes turned into the next, 45 minutes. And all of a sudden I showed up. I was in control until something else, one more thing came in. And I was like,
Yeah.
I lost it, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I was embarrassed because that's not how I normally do.
Mm,
But I should have had more guardrails in place to set myself up for success and
mm,
really say, not I do have 5 minutes, but I have a very hard stop,
mm.
and I think we sometimes are embarrassed to ask for what we really need
Yes.
and then stick with it.
Yeah. And the 2 things come to mind as you share that. One of the things I wanted to mention is part of a resilience practice that addresses both mind, body, and spirit to some extent is creating boundaries. And we don't often um, have that skill set highly developed. And again, you can't expect under stress to create a new practice or to try something new. That's not how it works. That's the part of our brain that shuts down under stress is learning.
Mm,
So it's important to have these things built and practiced when things are calmer so that when you need them, it becomes muscle memory. I studied embodiment for facilitators several years ago. And one of the things that was important during the certification program was our instructor had us set a timer on our phone for 30 seconds, 6 times a day. And each time that timer went off, we were to stop whatever we were doing, and for 30 seconds, we were to practice an awareness activity and a centering activity to acknowledge and see what was happening with our body in the moment. Take a few breaths, wiggle the toes, kind of ground yourself, few deep breaths, and then get back to the day. And what happened was that became such a part of my own muscle memory that when I notice I'm under stress or something's going on, I can immediately step into that and access that practice very quickly because I practice it so regularly for so long. I'll often say, brushing your teeth, taking a shower, when you have to go to the restroom, these are great opportunities to practice some of these things because they're things that we're doing anyway. And we have an opportunity. In many ways, we're letting things go during these activities. So it's a great way to just sort of check in with ourselves and see how we're feeling, what's happening in our bodies, and take a deep breath and move on, or practice it if things are not immediately urgent.
Yeah, and Ralph has a great question. Like he's talking about a lot of this, right? Like
Mm,
conceptually, I think we all know we should be doing these things. And I
yeah.
think there's two things that happen. Ralph's asking, like, how do we stop feeling guilty
Mm,
for, 30 seconds shouldn't be a long time, but some of the things that we're suggesting is go for a walk,
mm,
right? You need to have guardrails and not work past the 7 o'clock. How do we help people recognize that actually it's so that you are more productive,
yeah.
right? And I think that's the part we miss for people, that it feels guilty,
Mm,
but actually it sets us up for success in the long term.
yeah. So there's three things that come to mind for me around that. One is there is a premise that really sticks with me that I operate from, which is service is important to me as a value. As a coach, as an instructor, as a facilitator, this is what I do, right? I'm here to support others. So sometimes I can feel guilty about taking steps to support myself. But what I remember is kind of going back to your analogy with the airplane at the beginning. When I serve myself, I'm actually serving everyone else.
Yeah.
So if I remember that, then that helps remind me, oh, yeah, when I'm taking care of myself in this way or building this practice or trying to be the best version of myself, it's so that I can show up as the best version for others, right?
Yeah.
So that's one thing that comes to mind. But it's the second thing is why it matters at the end, which is what are we trying to achieve? What's the outcome that we're going for? Do we have a big objective that we're trying to hit? Are we trying to grow and develop our team? Are we trying to innovate? Are we trying to bring folks together in a way that they've never been before? What is the higher objective that we're going after? And at connecting those things just like we do with our teams. If you have a team member who has a task or a goal or a project that they're not excited about or they're having a challenge with, what do? We connect it to the bigger picture. We connect it to why it matters to them, to the team, and to the business. And ultimately to those we serve, customers, partners, whomever, right? So tying it back to the objective, why are we here? What do we want to do? And this is how it's going to help me do that. The third thing that I always remember whenever I am trying to create a practice or do something new, build a habit, whatever term you want to use, is there's three components to it. One is I set the intention to do it. I'm going to create a practice where I regularly step
Mhm.
into what's going on in my body and help regulate my nervous system. That's my intention. Second thing I do is I prioritize it. If we don't prioritize it, it doesn't happen. You had Harry Max on here a little while ago to talk about prioritization. If you haven't watched that one, that's a good one to go back and see. If we don't prioritize it, it's not going to happen. So it is making those little micro habits of every day for 30 seconds or 2 minutes, I'm going to set my intention for the day. Or every time I brush my teeth, I'm just going to check in with my body and take some deep breaths, whatever it is, prioritize it. And then the third part is practice. You've actually got to do it.
Yeah.
And once you do it, you establish a muscle memory around it, you establish a habit, and then it just becomes part of the way you do it. But we have to set the intention, and we need to prioritize it.
Yeah, and it's interesting because I'm going to bring this back to the E3 leadership code,
Yes.
because oftentimes we use it to help people lead others, right? Express the end vision, engage them, execute, all with emotional qualities, but it applies to ourselves. We need to lead
Yes.
ourselves,
Exactly.
right?
Yes.
So the other thing that I use sometimes to help me is to engage other people,
Mm-hmm.
right? So if
Yeah.
I'm trying to build a new habit, I struggle. And so I'll bring people on board with me and say, listen, you got to hold me account. I need your help.
Mm-hmm.
I need to let you know every day, have I done the habits that I've committed to? And it's okay. You can ask me, Kath, you didn't tell me. Did you get to it? Because I
Yeah.
know that's how I build that habit. And
Yeah.
so sometimes we need people in our circle to help us create that. Because
Absolutely. Yeah.
I mean, I'm the first one to tell you that I know what I should be doing, but I am also the next one to tell you that I forget or it gets deprioritized over
Yeah.
and over again.
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
this is a choice. I mean, and it's,
Yep.
I think one is you have to feel comfortable and confident that it is okay.
Mm.
And it's not just okay, it's critical.
Yeah. It's not an option.
Yes,
It's not an
agreed.
option. Yeah.
And if you look at some of the best leaders, they are going running every day. They have
Yes.
some kind of meditation
Yes.
practice. There is always some kind of structure. They have habits, skill to make sure they are taking care of themselves, giving them permission to stop, to think, to be. And so it's okay.
Yeah.
And I think that's
Absolutely.
that's our goal here, is to make sure everyone knows that it is okay
Yeah.
and it doesn't just happen. Some people do it naturally, but they've built the habits over time that they
Yeah.
probably don't even realize that they're
Yeah.
already doing it. For
And
me, one of the things is it was the miracle morning I started.
mhm.
And the miracle morning has me making sure that I do, it's called the savers. So it's silence, affirmations, visualization, exercise, reading, and scribing. And it was a habit that I built. And it was like, just you have to do it 30 days in a row,
Mm.
5 minutes for each one of them. And it created the habits.
Mhm.
Now I don't have to, like you said, I don't even have to think about it. And I know
Right.
I'm off. When I don't do them in the morning, that's why my day is off.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly right. And, going back to the idea of community and how important that can be and what a great structure that can be. Imagine as a leader, again, going back to accountability, but also community and intention. Imagine as a leader, if you sat down with your team and said, folks, I'm going to start a practice to do my best to show up as my best for you every day. What if we all did this together?
Mm,
So I'm going to do this practice. What you're doing is you're creating the space for it to be okay, not only for yourself, but for them as well.
mm,
Imagine being in a team where it's like, yeah, gee, Kath, how was it? Let's say your magic morning. How did magic morning go for you today, right? For me, maybe it's a meditation or a daily art practice. You could check in with me. Maybe we do a 5-minute stand up every morning where we just check in with each other on our practice. How did it go? Da, 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 da. Oh, I'm going to make time to do that at lunch. Awesome. Do you need a walking partner today? I'd love to go walk with you at lunch or do our one on one, around the block or whatever it is, right? So there are ways that we can do it. And I think sometimes as leaders, it can feel very lonely because we feel like we have to be everything for everyone all the time. And we forget, one, that we can build community with other leaders, but two, when we approach things as a team, if we all have a common objective, how can we show up as our best selves for each other every day, that's a common objective that we can share with our teams and bring everyone along with you.
Yeah.
I would love to be part of a team like that.
I agree. I mean, and I think about all of the boot camps we've done together, right? Where
Yes.
people start to do the awareness exercises and really take that opportunity to complete their E3 leadership profile, but knowing who they are,
Yes.
where they and their intention, right? When you and share that intention and you're vulnerable with others, you give people permission to do the same thing, right? And so then
Exactly
as a
right.
leader, you're modeling for your
Mm-hmm.
team.
Exactly right. Exactly right. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a non-negotiable because we aren't going to get the objectives and the results that we are tasked to bring forward as a leader if we don't put these practices in place for ourselves, because we're not going to show up as the best version of ourselves.
Yeah. And one of the other things you and I do, like our whole team does, right? We start every meeting. What's our intention? What would
Exactly.
we love to get out of today's meeting?
Yep.
And when we do that, it regrounds us, right? Of, oh, why are we here? What are we looking to do? How do we get rid of the noise?
Yes.
And it's the clean the slate exercise that you
Yes.
introduced, right, to the boot camp is another one. It's so powerful to become present, to be there and get rid of the noise, because it is the noise that really creates the challenges.
Absolutely, absolutely. And, you know, so one thing I might say, just to sort of sum it up, is I'd really encourage folks to think about, take a few minutes if you can today, 5 minutes maybe, and just sit down and think about what are the things that I can be doing that can help my mental load, clarity, expectations. Doesn't have to be like meditation and stuff like that. How am I setting boundaries? Do I set clear intentions? Do I have clear objectives? Am I setting those for my team, right? So, what am I doing to help minimize my mental load? How am I taking care of my body and building in practices to support my physical self? And then, third, how am I bringing into my life on a regular basis things that bring me joy?
I love it.
And see where you go. And don't try to solve for all of it at once. Pick one thing. And this week, maybe the goal is I'm going to journal for 5 minutes at the end of the day. Awesome. Pick one thing, do that till that feels good or until it stops feeling good and you want to try something else, and then introduce something new. But yeah, we don't have to be perfect. We don't have to do it all at once. And the important thing is we're just sort of tapping into all three of those until we find something that works, that flows, and we do it until it doesn't work anymore. And then we try something new.
Yeah. And my favorite one I'll leave folks with is just the question of what would I love?
Mm-hmm.
That question alone can give you so much space and grace to go, what would I really love?
Yeah.
So great advice, Tracy. As always,
Oh,
thank you
so
so
kind.
much for joining. I appreciate it. I hope everyone really had a great time. There's other voices of leadership if you haven't listened to some of them, as Tracy mentioned. Max does one on prioritization, building trust, building vulnerability. So it takes an effort, but it makes a difference. So take care of yourself so that you can lead everyone better.
Yeah.
Thanks all. Have a
Awesome. Thank you.
thanks.
Bye.